Last time I started a series on innovation based on the idea of synthesizers and sound effects. And first of all, this time I'm going to look at sound effects a little bit more. Before I do, I want to make sure I mention sampling. I hadn't covered that in my last series, and so sampling is a method of recording a sound, an actual sound, and using that as a basis for synthesis. Okay, so that's how I'm going to talk about that right now, but we'll maybe get back to that later. Okay, now the main emphasis of this time will be sound effects. So we're going to look at different types of sound effects, and some of you are probably wondering, well, what happened to the filtering? Okay, and I'm getting to that, and so we're going to start out. One of the key components of an analog synthesizer is, of course, filtering, and so we'll start right off with that. And really, sound effects, I've divided them up into three main categories. The first is filtering. The second one I'm going to do will involve feedback of some type. So, and we'll look at that later. Feedback, and that'll involve both delays, modulations, stuff like that. And then the other one we'll look at is based on dynamics processing. Dynamics. Okay. Alright, so if I look at, start out here with the filtering, and look at what's going on with that. There's a few different types of filters. So the first one that comes to my mind is the low-pass filter, where we allow sounds, if we look at frequency, we allow sounds below a certain point to pass through the filter, but above a certain frequency those sounds are not allowed to pass. Now this can also be applied with resonance, and so you can have an emphasis peak here right at the cutoff point, and so that's a resonant low-pass filter. Okay, the next one I'll look at is a well, we could look at a high-pass filter, okay, in the same category. So high-pass filter allows the high frequencies to go through, but filters out the low frequencies. Again, that can also have emphasis at the point of cutoff, and that's sometimes called Q, based on an old radio term for quality factor. And then the other main category in here is the bandpass filter. Bandpass filter. So this is my high-pass filter. Okay, and that one filters out both the highs and the lows, and only allows some central frequency to come through. And when you modify the Q on that one, you could make it either a narrow bandpass filter or sort of a broad bandpass filter. And this is really where the term Q comes from, is how good of a quality, the better quality your filter is, the narrower the band is. And it originally had to do something to do with radio stations, whether you could pick up a radio station with your tuner. Okay, now those are some common types of filters, but those are the three simple types. There's a couple other types of filters that we might think about, and they fall in the category of parametric filters. And so on these, if we have a basic sound, we think of giving it a boost or a cut at a certain frequency. And so this flat line would indicate no change to the sound, and these would indicate giving it a boost to a certain frequency, or cutting a certain frequency. It might not go all the way down to zero, it may just reduce it a little bit. Okay, so that's when you do that, that's typically called a parametric equalizer. And well, while we're still at it, we could also have something called a graphic equalizer. And so that may look something like, usually it has a number of different frequency bands that you can control with a slider of some type. Okay, and by adjusting those sliders you can either boost or cut any particular frequency band. So it's a more and it's a different way, different compared to a parametric equalizer. And with a graphic equalizer, typically you can't control the Q or the bandwidth on those. And let's look at something else. So along with the parametric equalizer, usually you have a couple other things, and those are shelf filters. And so let's say this is zero sound. You can, instead of cutting all of the low frequency sound, you can just lower the level of the low frequency sound. So this is a low shelf filter, or you could increase it, bring it up a little bit, and so that would still be a low shelf filter. You could do the same thing with the higher frequencies with a shelf filter, and so this would be a high shelf filter, where you could raise the frequencies up a little bit at a certain cutoff frequency or lower them down a little bit. You may have emphasis on either one of those. Now the next thing we might look at, again, these get increasingly complex. There may be another type of filter that's more complex than these, and that could be some type of what I might call a formant filter. That may be modeled after a vocal tract or a vocal cord tract or somebody's vocal tract, and so this may introduce certain overtones of resonance, boosts or cuts to a certain signal, and give it a formant quality. And really something like a wah pedal isn't just a simple low pass filter with Q, and sometimes it gives it even more of a vocal quality, and so a wah pedal might fall into this category a little bit. But there are also, you can find these on synthesizers in the sound effects section quite often, and you could make the sound ah or ooh, different sounds like that. You could also simulate the body of a guitar, like an acoustic guitar body, with something like a formant filter to give your sound the resonances as if it were played inside of an acoustic guitar body. So there's that idea. Then you could also another thing that they often do is to take a guitar amplifier and speak in a certain speaker and look at the characteristics, the filtering characteristics that happen when you plug a sound into a system like this, and then base the filter based on the natural resonances of a particular guitar amp speaker system. Okay. So that's all it has to do with filtering, and again it changes in terms of its complexity and the type of filter that you have.